Okay, Pam, thank you for joining with me on today's podcast with me.
I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And I would love to tell my viewers that Pam is a writer, editor, and additionally she's an environmental lawyer. So in this podcast, I'm gonna ask her questions about environment, how we can save it, what are some of the things that we do that deteriorates the environment. So without any further ado, I guess let's do it, Pam.
Okay, shoot.
So I read your some of the the stuff on Medium where you wrote about plastics, where you wrote about water. So take me through that, Pam.
Uh, so it's the story for me with plastics started at the same time the story with water started in 1990. I graduated from law school, and that year I had started, realizing that plastics was a big issue, and so I started writing about that. And then I got my first job as a baby lawyer at the Environmental Protection Agency, and I
Mm.
stayed there for 33 years, 23, I guess, of which I worked in the water division. So I have a real love of clean water and trying to spread the message of clean water. And the whole thing with plastics is so odd to me because um, when it started, wait, I just lost you. That's weird. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, Pam.
I don't see your
What's wrong?
um you've gone away. Like the Zoom
No, it's right here.
picture
I
has
can see
gone
you.
away.
You're like it's like you might have gone into the different tab in your laptop.
I wonder
It might have
I wonder
been.
how I get you back.
Oh, I can see you. The screen is there, but you are lost somewhere.
How do I get you back? Um,
Might be there.
oh, there you are.
Yeah. Okay. Hello again.
Okay, so the situation with plastics in 1990 when I first wrote about it was that there was no good recycling options. There was no, the little chasing arrows that you sometimes see on the bottom of a recycling container. It allows you to recycle things in a certain way. Like, for instance, you can't recycle a cat litter container into a milk jug. So you need to know what the container was, and different strengths of plastic are for different things. Okay. So initially I was thinking, oh, that's what we need. We need a new recycling law. We need to label these things better and whatnot. Fast forward, it's now 35 years later, and we still don't have any recycling laws federally anyway on the books. Individual states have different things and individual municipalities, but federal government has not stepped up on that. And it's less important in my mind that you name things now because only 10% of plastics are recycled. So you could go and put those little chasing arrows on every piece of plastic, but if it's not going to get recycled, it doesn't matter. So what I'm focusing on now, and we actually just gave a talk to the Lancaster Merchant City Alliance last month. It's the business community. Every month they have a business meeting on the reduction of plastics. And here, where I live, in central Pennsylvania, we are trying to get the city of Lancaster to ban single-use plastics in the downtown area. So businesses wouldn't sell them anymore. They'd sell cloth bags or plastic, the recyclable plastic bags that you can buy at the grocery store now that you can use again and again and again, but not those single-use plastic bags, which have a shelf life of 12 minutes. And then they end up in a landfill, and then they end up, off into the ocean. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the YouTube things like Manila has plastic coming in all day long. People are shoveling the plastic, taking it off to the landfill, and it never stops coming in. So this is the kind of thing we're dealing with plastics, just plastics. And
Oh,
the petroleum companies are now saying that they are going to quadruple production by 2050. So if we can't even keep up with what we've got now, you're quadrupling production. We're just going to all be choking on plastic. It's not funny, but I don't know how else to deal with it if I
Yeah,
don't laugh
yeah.
about it a
It
little bit.
makes
It's just
sense.
it
Yes.
just it doesn't it's there's no common sense to it.
Hmm. And coming back to water,
So,
like Pam, I'm not sure whether you know about this thing or not, but in India we have this machines like installed in every household. We cannot directly drink tap water. It's not like you guys, where we open the tap and we drink it. We have like separate thing which purifies the water and then we drink it. So, like the point is like that in terms of water, we have this thing like still at least you are better like your situation where you can directly turn on the tap and you can drink water, right? That's how it is over there.
yes, but um, some people don't trust their water anymore because
Okay.
now we've got PFAS, perfluoroalkyl substances, which is an umbrella word for the thousands upon thousands of chemicals that have a very strong bond that they call them forever chemicals. They don't break down. And there's tons of different kinds of them. PFAS is the generic term for all of them. But lots of people have PFAS in their water and they're sort of fighting with their local water treatment center to get this very expensive equipment on the treatment center so that they don't get the PFAS. So in the interim, people probably drink, they buy Brita filters or they buy whatever other kind of filters are available to filter that out through with carbon. But now there's microplastics also in the water. So
Yeah.
yes, we have this safe water. It's tested, but there's starting to be chinks in the armor, and I'm not really sure how it's all going to play out because the PFAS fix is super expensive. And if every wastewater treatment plant had to do it, I mean, sometimes you just have these little plants in a little community and they don't have the funds to put that kind of um, reverse osmosis or I think that's the best one is reverse osmosis. I think that takes everything out. But then you've basically stripped your water of everything. So there's no more minerals, there's no more anything in it. So
Mhm.
it's just this the constant pressure. How do you keep the pollution out and how do you still make the water, worth drinking? We all
Yeah.
need water. We can't live without it for 4 days if we die after 4 days with no water. So it's not like it's an option to not drink water.
Okay, and the thing where you mentioned about how you get rid of all the things inside the water, we have that thing also. In India, we call it as RO system, where the water is like like 100% pure. But what usually happens in that is once you start drinking that water, if you drink any other water with some sort of nutrients or minerals in that, you'll fall sick. And on top of that, you will have the issues of that one B12 deficiency. If your water is
Wait,
100% pure,
how come? What does it do?
like in filter water, like the water is on, like all the nutrients of the water is filtered. So if you drink that thing, then you're like we have also that kind of filter. We call it as RO filter, where if we drink that water, we have to take the injections of that thing B12 deficiency. So we are like usually we don't buy that kind of filter where RO is there. We buy the normal one where water still has the good qualities in it.
Tell me again what it is. I'm gonna have to research it after I get off this
Like
call.
in India, we call it as RO,
F-
water,
How
RO,
do you spell it?
R,
No,
R,
just R-O,
yeah,
R-O,
RO.
R-O water filter. That is so weird. It doesn't make sense that it would cause a B12 deficiency because why is there B vitamins in the water to start with, right? Like I didn't even realize that was a source
Yeah,
of B.
it's the case, I guess. With majority of the time it happens. The people who has this thing, so that's why a lot of people refrain from purifying water to its 100%. Like we keep the water at a way where it gets purified, but not the nutrients. Like it doesn't get rid of the nutrients. So we have those kind of filters as well. So that's the point. And
Interesting.
coming back to your statement, you mentioned microplastics. So, what are the risks of it if it goes inside the human beings?
Oh. So they're just starting to figure this out. It, I think of maybe it's a year or two now, they realized that microplastics cross the blood-brain barrier in fetuses. So they started looking more closely, and as they've been looking more closely, they're finding it in our bodies, in everyone. Um, a friend of a friend's father just had to have a blood clot removed. It turned out it was microplastics,
Oh,
just weird stories. And I feel like there, because microplastics can be so tiny that you need a microscope to see them. You could be drinking microplastics and not even know it. And the plastic bottles that you get your water in contribute to the additional leaching of plastics. And I should say also about those bottles of water, they're not regulated. So if you were worried about your tap water, then you should really be worried about bottled water, because there was a study by NRDC, and I think it was like 2014 or something, where 30% of the bottles were contaminated with E. coli. There was just a lot of contamination that doesn't get picked up in bottled water, which is supposedly spring water, but some of these springs are located next to a landfill, right? So you don't know where that water is coming from, and the government's not regulating it. So don't drink bottled water.
yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Having said that, plastics just keeps leaching and leaching and leaching into everything. Now they're saying even if you're just storing food in plastic containers, it could be leaching into your food.
Oh,
Shouldn't
okay.
drink plastic. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying,
What?
oh, it's a way of like
Oh,
expressing the shock. In India, we say it,
it's
oh.
it, it is so shocking, even to somebody like me who's been working in this like industry for so long, and I've seen so much shocking stuff. This is beyond shocking now because there's no
Hmm.
way around it. I mean, I don't know if your shirt is cotton or part synthetic. It looks like a cotton t-shirt, so
Yeah,
you're
it's pure
good, right?
cotton.
But if you're wearing Gore-Tex or you're wearing any of the synthetic materials, like there's a lot of fast fashion out there that, uses synthetic materials, you're leaching that stuff and it's leaching into your skin, and because your skin is porous and it's the biggest organ in your body. Like feels like there's no place to hide anymore.
Hmm.
There's no way to get around it. Now the microplastics are in the air and you're breathing it in, and you're drinking it in the water, and it's in the soil, and it's in your food. It, plastic packaging is causing microplastics to be in your chocolate cake, your seafood.
Okay.
It's just a never ending thing. And to get around it, I don't know. You can't even go live on a mountain. Mount Everest has PFAS and plastics on it, right? Because people pack stuff in and it sloughs off, and they find those materials there. It's just super scary and a little more than a little unfair to, like, the population of the planet, that nobody explained this to us. If the people who made plastic would have said, "Oh, and if you do X, Y, and Z, it's going to be in your bloodstream," I think a fair majority of us would say, "Well, I'm not going to use that product." But that was never explained to anybody. So, and it's the plastics across many industries. And I'm not advocating to get rid of plastics entirely. We have them in our iPhones. Like we would not have a phone if we didn't have plastic, right? It would be too
Okay.
heavy. The cars that we have on the road probably couldn't do EV if the parts weren't made with plastics, because it'd be too heavy, and the battery, you need like this ginormous battery. So there are uses for plastic, but we don't need the single-use plastics. They're just killing us. And I would love it if everyone just decided, yes, we're banning those in our area. The nonprofit organization that I'm working with is called Red Rose Reuses, and we're just trying to do it in our little town, right? And if everybody did that in their little towns, maybe that ripples out and we get some cohesive legislation on getting rid of single-use plastics. At least that's the hope.
Like a few months ago, or I'm not sure, even years. Like in our like city, it was like the plastic was completely banned, and it remained there for a while. When again things back to normal. So now again people they don't simply don't give a damn about that those things. Like plastic bags are everywhere, and the things are back to normal. Like what I'm saying is government was serious for a while about this thing, and then again the things went to normal. So how do we tackle this situation? Like to, as you said that you're in your place also you're trying to do that, but what if things goes back to normal?
They are starting to go back because our current administration, not to say anything bad about anyone, but they don't really care about the environment as much as our past administration did. And like the EPA, where I used to work, is being downsized tremendously. I think they wanted to downsize by 65%, which, we could barely keep up with the work we had when it was at full capacity. Um, when I left the agency, we were running at that same levels that were in place when Reagan was president in 1984. And there's 5 billion more people on the planet, right? So, and I'm not sure how many more Americans there were, but I think it was 230 million then, and it's like 312 million now. So that doesn't, you're not going to get the inspections that you need. You're not going to, people are going to get away with stuff, and you're not going to be able to enforce the laws the way you could. And now with the additional reductions, it's just all gone to hell in a handbasket. And this latest thing that I read last week is that they're no longer going to require treatment for PFAS at drinking water plants. I think I have that right. I just saw like a little blurb about it. So basically, we're doing an about face with a lot of things, or EPA will be, which is our main regulatory watchdog for the environment here in this country. Now, thank goodness we have a ton of other organizations, nonprofit ones that are also looking at different things. Like we have American Rivers, we have all the river keepers, we have the Water Alliance, Chesapeake Bay Alliance. We have so many organizations in this area that are also paying attention. But if you have to take everything to court all the time, it takes forever. And it would just be nice if we all used a little common sense and thought this is what we need to do today for 7 generations down the road, right? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on in America right now, but it doesn't seem to be the thing that anyone cares about. Seems like people just want
Yeah.
to.
And whenever I talk with sagacious people like you, I always feel like the world is getting worse and worse, and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. I always feel like that. And
Yeah, well, I always feel like that environmentally, there'll be good, like positive blips along the way, but then it goes back to being like, oh, it's getting worse. But actually, I think if you look at statistics for all indicators over the past 100 or 200 years, it's gotten better in a lot of things. Right now, there just seems to be a big pushback. And I don't know if it's energetically, because of all these planets are aligning like they've never not aligned for 12,000 years. And I think that's causing a lot of energetic changes on the planet. So I think people are trying to get their footing and figure out where they are in the scheme of things. But I hope everybody like wakes up one morning and goes, oh my gosh, we got to do something about this mess. At least I keep putting blog posts and things out there talking about it. Hopefully people are gonna like take notice someday. I don't know.
yeah, I watched all of it. I watched your recent interview on like you upload that person, or I'm not sure, uploaded on the YouTube as well, where you talked about these things. So I watched that, and your blogs also on Medium, where you talked about different things, not only water, but several other things as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
okay, so in context of what you said, Pam, how can environmental policies be made more effective?
Definitely need more teeth. Um, Penalties, but eh, criminal violations for the really egregious stuff. It's the only thing that works. People aren't going to just go do something that costs more money because they want to be nice. And it's not. In fact, I just actually need to put this on Medium. I was speaking with behavioral growth architect. He looks at the way people behave and says if you want people to change. So he was at the meeting for the City Alliance, and I said, those ketchup packets that you get at McDonald's. they cost somewhere between 3 and 25 cents, depending on who you are and how much buying power you have, right? 850 billion of those are thrown away every year. So,
Oh,
and this is the kind of plastic that can't be recycled because there's several layers to it. Like there's a layer for the aluminum, there's a layer for the color, there's different things going on. So 850 billion of them are ending up in a landfill somewhere. And he was saying the way, his name is Carl Gibbons, and he's brilliant. The way to change behavior is to say, okay, you can have this little paper cup of ketchup for free, or you can pay 50 cents for this plastic ketchup packet. And then people will be like, I'm not paying 50 cents for a little squirt of ketchup. I'm going to take the freebie. And if you keep doing that, you're consistent over time, eventually you will change people's behavior. So that was the first time I heard anybody say it that way. And I just heard him say it just a few weeks ago. So I'm thinking more now along those lines. How do we do that? How do we do that in every industry? How do we do that with every product? Like, how can we move this ball forward? Because it's not just going to happen through legislation, and it's certainly not going to happen today through legislation when you have an administration that's like pro business and I'm not going to say anti-environment, but I don't know that they get it, right? Like, I don't know that they're paying attention to the science. So, because if you were, you would say, oh, hell no, we got to slow this down, not speed it up, right? Um, so I thought, now I just need to start to take a deep dive through all the different industries and see how can you make people switch their behavior based on the products that they're making.
wow. And
Beyond that, I don't know. I really, Janelle, I think you really need to have grassroots organization everywhere if you want to get anything done because we're tribal people and we respond tribally to things. And when people are forced to do things they don't want to do, they just still don't do them. They'll figure out ways around them. But if your community is doing it, and everybody in your community, you like them, they like you, you'll start doing it too. So I
and
always think of the Aborigines when somebody does something wrong. I had read something about the Aborigines in Australia. Instead of shaming the person, they all gather in a circle and the person stands in the middle of the circle and they say how much they love them and what things they do that they love about them and all the great qualities. And the person is not shamed. The person feels self-worth and thinks, oh, yeah, I should have done this instead of that because I'm a good person. So maybe we all need to have a big circle where we say what we like about each other. I don't know.
And even I had the chance to meet a lot of nutritionists and people who were into the field of food and nutrition. So they also told me that in context of as you mentioned about that ketchup thing, like even like in the US and UK, there are a lot like majority of the people consume that processed food, which is in the plastics and all. So even that like one of the Americans, she told me that it's a way, it's a straight strategy of the government. That's how they can earn profit from it. Because if a person falls ill, that person is going to buy medicines. So that's all the economic way of making the country richer, better. So what's your take on it? Do you think that way? Is that how the situation is?
I well, people would say that's a conspiracy theory,
No.
but I actually believe that that's part of it. I think that there's probably a lot of money to be made from cancer and diabetes and lots of other of these autoimmune kind of, well, cancer's not autoimmune, but like rheumatoid arthritis, those kind of autoimmune things. And it's like subscribing to a channel, right? Like you get paid every month. I feel like if you get one of those diseases, you're paying the pharma company every month. And part of the book that I just wrote, Bad Pharma, which talked about a clinical trial, that was at the heart of that. Like the pharma companies just after profit all the time. They're not really thinking about the end result. And in this book, it was the kids that were at risk from a failed clinical trial. Um, Is it like that across the board? No, I'm sure it's not. And originally, people probably got into the industry thinking we're going to do some good in the world. But the way that the industry's set up, it's almost like is it's called SaaS, SaaS, or what, the ongoing
Yeah,
subscription thing for people who have, long-term medical things. So I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's real. And it's just not something that we talk about because, the lobbyists for the pharma company, there's probably a jillion of them. And there's really no lobbyists for the planet except a few nonprofits. And they can't really always afford to send people to say, no, that's not right. And if you do that, this will happen. So I'm heartened to hear that a nutritionist said that to you because it's not really a something people say it a lot out loud.
yeah. And do you have that book with you, Pam, as of now?
I
Like,
do.
yeah, can you show it to my viewers? That
It's got
pharma.
a different
Oh,
cover now. We
hmm.
were talking to a marketing person and they said the cover will be better if it's this way. And so now it's like got some
Yeah,
bad farm red and
interesting. And I
um
guess you have also the lot of notes inside that.
the what?
The notes, like,
Oh, oh
yeah.
yeah, because I actually did a reading
Hmm.
a couple of weeks ago and I wanted to mark the pages that I was going to read. So I just kept them in case I do another one because those were like good chapters that set the story up.
Interesting. And what inspired you? I know that you are inspiration, but how was the process of writing the book itself?
It was great. I mean, well, actually, the writing the book was very hard. It took like 4 or 5 years, and it went through several iterations. But it was great when it was done because I felt like it was really a good recitation of what goes on behind closed doors and why the pharma industry somebody should do a deeper dive into how they make decisions because you're affecting millions, if not the whole world, right? And if you've got a drug that doesn't work and you're like, well, the risk is a little high, but maybe it's not outside the parameters of high or the normalcy of high. We're just going to go for it for another year or 2 years. In that period of time, thousands of people can die from whatever the risk factor was. So rather than like being on the cautious side, they seem to want to jump in if they've got something they think could be a blockbuster. And I get that there's tons of money that goes into research and that you spend years bringing a drug to market. And if it's a bust, that's a big fail. You've just lost a bunch of money. But at the end of the day, who is the client, right? And I feel like pharma companies should be held to the same standards that doctors are held to, like the first do no harm standard. So if you're not sure, don't release it. Keep testing it. But that's not how they work. So, and I could be wrong. It wasn't how they worked in this one situation, but they might do it differently in other situations. And I shouldn't say it's across the board. Maybe they are differently. This was just one company and one situation. But as a consumer who sees all the millions of drug ads on TV and like the 20 or 50 side effects that they say, don't, this might happen or that might happen, it's kind of covering your butt. You got to think, well, there's a lot of unknown unknowns there then, isn't there?
Yeah. And one thing that blew me away, Pam, about USA is like I'm really into your country and I really admire Americans. I watch movies, American films all the time. So I'm deeply rooted to it. But one thing that was flabbergasted me or took me away was the fact that even though if you are on the verge of dying, you still have to take an appointment of the doctor, and that might take a long time. Like you won't
Yeah.
get the appointment right away. So how do you guys manage with this kind of situation where you need the emergency and everything, but still the appointment is mandatory?
Uh, Now you're talking in a situation where you need a specific drug that you need to go to the doctor, or are you talking like
No,
if you
simply
break your leg,
just
you go to the
going to the
hospital?
doctor, going to the doctor itself in a critical situation.
I would think that they wouldn't go to their doctor. They would go to the emergency room.
Okay.
Our hospitals all have emergency rooms. Well, I hope they all do. Like probably some tiny ones maybe have some version of that. And you might end up waiting 3 or 5 or 7 hours
That's what I'm
sometimes.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you are on the verge of like dying, and still you have to wait. What sort of like government or what sort of system is that?
Well, it's the hospital system. But I will say I have a very good friend who was an ER doc. He's retired now, but they triage when you walk in the door. So whoever's, you go to the receiving desk and you say what your problem is. If you're actively bleeding, they're going to get you to a doctor right away, right? If you're uh about to pass out, they'll probably put you in a bed. If you've got a problem that compared to everyone else in the room is not as big of a deal, but it's a huge deal to you, you're going to wait. I
Mm.
don't think the waiting is as bad as it used to be. We have a lot of hospitals around here, and we have a lot of retirees around here because it's a nice farmland and whatever, a good place to retire. So we've got a lot of hospitals, and I think that probably they're not waiting 5 hours, right? They're probably being treated much sooner. I have not been to an emergency room in, I don't know. I don't remember when the last time was that I went.
Yeah, and I
We
wish
have
you don't even
another
have
thing called, what's that?
I wish you don't even have to. Let's hope for the good things. You don't even have to visit.
Right, right. But we have another thing that's been sprouting up there. It's called Patients First. I don't know if it's across the country or not, but it's like um, a mini emergency room. You can go in and be treated for things that aren't an emergency or some stuff that's bigger, and you'll be seen very quickly. And if it's something they can't handle, they send you to the hospital. So there's like tiers of treatment. If you can't get treated right away at one place, you go to another place. Um, I don't know. What's it like in India?
In India, like in terms of that, although corruption exists in hospitals, like where they treat you for the things you don't even have to take out, a lot of like wealth out of you to take, like to empty your pockets. These things are there, but it's not like if you are bleeding or if the situation is critical, they would even immediately take you in the hospital in the room. They would immediately start doing the treatment. It's not like we have to wait for doing all those things. So
Okay.
that way it's better. However, like corruption and it's like India is like when it comes to corruption, India is I guess leading country. Uh,
Really?
yeah, that thing is all there. You have to pay the bribes. Yeah, even pollution wise, it's really like it has surpassed the China in terms of population. So as the population is increasing exponentially, pollution is likewise increasing, and there are a lot of vehicles. Even if you step out, there are people everywhere. Like in city, you will see a tons of people. I guess that's not the situation over there, right? You barely see someone when you go on a road.
Oh no, it's crowded. Sometimes I can't get out of my street because the traffic is so
Oh,
bad, but
okay.
it waxes and wanes. But I think what's even more nerve-wracking is the air quality there
Hmm.
in your country because my niece went a couple years ago and they said it was just so hard and she went with her dad and they were both athletes and said it was just so hard in some places to breathe, like you really needed a mask.
That's true.
And that air pollution is not static, right? It's traveling
Hmm.
around. And it's the same with water pollution. When we have something that happens here in our country, eventually it's going to end up in your country. We are not a world of borders by country, yes, but the pollution doesn't respect a border. So anything we all do to ourselves is happening to everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I,
in my
I think
place,
when I was in Egypt in 1990 or 88 or something, I remember it being very smoggy there too. And I also didn't drink any water there because you were told just drink bottled water because they're different. The contaminants in the water are different and you'll get sick. And I didn't, except I brushed my teeth with the water in the hotel room one time and I did get a bug and it lasted like 6 weeks. It was so I don't, I guess people adapt when they live in a
Mhm.
place. You've probably adapted to whatever the stuff is in your water and in your air, but it's probably like how you started the conversation with the RO. When you
Yeah,
get something that's clean, then your system reacts a little violently because it doesn't recognize it
mhm,
and it's trying to readjust to keep up with it.
definitely. Yeah, do your research in that, and if you have any questions in context of RO, you can ask me. Definitely,
Okay.
hope to help you with that. And all right, Pam, I guess the meeting is like about to get over, so I guess I won't hold you any longer. It was really intriguing to have this conversation with you. I learned a lot. And thank you for being a part of this podcast and come back again as soon as possible.
Well, thank you for inviting me and thank you for your interest in the environment. It's my favorite topic.
All right.
Next to my writing, of course. No, the environment's first, my writing is second.
Mhm. We're going to talk
I
more about your book as well, I guess, in the part two of podcast. So, till
okay.
then,
We can,
uh,
by then I'll have a audio book out for my Oil and Water, was a novel I wrote 10 years ago, and Amazon, through the democratization of publishing, has asked, do you want to put this in an audio book? And they're going to use AI. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So I'm working on that right now. So maybe the next time I'll have that book out.
definitely.
And that's about oil spills, and green technology.
Wow. Already looking forward to it. So ping me once you are done with that, and we'll again
Okay.
enlighten the viewers with the sort of things that are going on around the world. All right.
Thanks, Janine.
Thank you for your
Have a
time.
great Saturday. Bye.